Starting a podcast.
Welcome to Franchise Flicks, the after show. My name's Ted, and joining me are my co-hosts Andy and Zach. We've already watched, broken down, and reviewed the Sam Raimi Spiderman series, but now it's time for us to just have some fun, talk theories, chat with anybody who wants to join us in the live chat. You can drop any of your ideas in there, and we're just looking to talk about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man series. And I guess to start us off, an interesting topic to talk about regarding this series would be, I guess, how does it compare to some of the other Spider-Man iterations we've seen? So, that can be live action. Well, I guess we probably would be talking more live action, but we've also watched the animated series. There's Into the Spider-Verse. So I guess I'll get us started on that. I think it compares favorably, at the very least, to the Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. And I know, Andy, you haven't seen those, right?
Have not.
Okay. You're not missing too much. They're okay, but those movies were really made so they could hold on to the rights and didn't have to relinquish them back to Marvel. And that's kind of what's led to the current fight between Disney and Sony.
Sony's greedy bitches, man.
Well, I mean, Marvel did sell the rights to it, and they're well within their rights to do whatever they can within that contract, which is apparently just renew it every couple of years when they need to, when it's about to expire. And now they get probably half the money, at least, from the current MCU stuff, which they have to do nothing for. They just own the rights to it.
What would you? I would love if they just came out with just a super low budget Spider-Man movie, like every couple.
Oh, dude,
just to keep the rights to it.
Well, do you know the
just
story?
Complete shit.
Do you know the story about the '90s Fantastic Four? So not the one that has like Jessica Biel and Chris Evans in it, but there's
not Chris Evans' second Marvel character.
No. Technically his first at that time.
Well, his first, I guess.
But yeah, the first, or I guess the second that everybody recognizes him as. But there's like a 1993 Fantastic Four movie that like never saw the light of day, but it was made so they could retain the rights because they weren't ready for it. Apparently it's complete dog shit. I think you can find it on YouTube though. I'd love to watch it someday. Maybe we'll do that if we ever.
It's on YouTube?
I'm pretty sure you could find it on YouTube.
Really?
I can
That's
see
sad.
Andy's screen lighting up, so I can only imagine he's looking for it right now.
Yeah, I'm
That's
looking for it
exactly
right
what
now.
I was gonna do too.
Yeah.
I'm already on it.
Oh, you found it?
What?
I'm on the Wikipedia just reading about it, but I can look on YouTube.
1994, dude. I did not know this exists. How did you know that?
I first found out about it through Arrested Development. Weirdly enough, their season 4 parodied it and completely referenced it. Said that it was Maria Bamford played the woman who supposedly played Sue Storm in it. Obviously, she didn't actually do that, but they like parodied an actual thing that happened and like how horrible the movie was. And I found out about it first from that. I'm like, I wonder if that's real. Looked it up, and sure enough, it was. And it's just a whole thing to retain rights.
Have you seen it?
No, I want to though.
It has to be so bad.
Yeah,
The link is in the chat now.
Oh, so for the whole movie.
Yeah, whole movie.
Holy shit.
Hour and 30 minutes.
Oh my god.
Man.
Boys, we got podcasts longer than this movie, so.
Yeah, and probably better.
We definitely should take the time. You know what's funny? I actually just watched the shitty 2004, 2005 Fantastic Four.
Yeah, what'd you think?
It's as bad as I remember.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
I watched those like 2 years ago. I'm like, I remember watching these a lot. Were they any good? And sure enough, they weren't. And I think it goes back to what we talked about in like the original episode for this is like those movies were playing on FX all the time while Spider-Man was playing on TBS all the time. So
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah, because it's Fox-owned FX was playing the Fantastic Four. So, yeah, they just inundated with it to the point where I thought maybe I liked them.
Dude, it's so bad. I definitely think the Spider-Man prior to this was much better way to keep the rights going.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah,
I like these movies. These the Sam Raimi movies.
Yeah, well, they made quality movies with these ones for sure. There are problems in 3, and we know that. We already discussed that. But when it comes to the Andrew Garfield ones, that's not to say they're not quality, but they're a step down, I think, in overall quality just because they were really trying to cram something in there. But they had good actors in it. They had him and Emma Stone in those movies. I think Martin...
Jamie Foxx.
Who?
Wasn't Jamie Foxx
in I thought you said Megan Fox. I'm like...
No.
I don't remember that. Yeah, Jamie Foxx was Electro, which was famously bad.
It was really bad.
I liked it. I thought it was kind of fun and slapsticky. It felt very much like a comic from when Electro was first introduced. Like he gets thrown into a vat of eels, and that's how he becomes Electro. Just gets shocked.
I just remember like all like the Spider-Man, animated series. Electro was like cool. And, like in the video games, he's cool. Like he's got a really cool suit.
Yeah.
And I think there's even Electro in the new Spider-Man game, which, by the way, can we talk about that too? Not right now, but I want to talk about the Spider-Man game. Have either of you played that?
I haven't.
No.
Spider-Man game? Oh, man. All right. Then maybe it's not worth talking about.
But
But
if
it's a
anybody
really good
in
game.
the chat has, let us know, and we can have you talk to Zach about it.
It's a great game. And, it realizes my dream of the Sinister Six. Like, it actually highlights the Sinister Six. So... It's a really good game. I wish they did something more like that. But
it's almost like these projects that Sony makes are better suited for video games, which make them more money. I wonder why they're doing that.
Well,
video games.
It's
the worldwide box office, quote unquote, for video games is like order of magnitude greater than movies. So,
is that true?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you don't go to a theater to play a game. You buy it and bring it home. And not everybody buys and brings home a movie. So I get that for sure.
Well, and they're also like 4 times as expensive as movies.
Yeah. And
but the work and content that goes into that is probably just as expensive, isn't it?
Well, and that's kind of what I'm alluding to, though, with like they're putting their money where their mouth is and producing better content in video games because they know that's what sells. They're gonna put more time, energy, effort into the good stuff, and it's probably less money than in some ways what they're spending in certain aspects, But it's the same idea. They're just doing a better job of it in the thing that's gonna sell more.
Yeah, the Sony video games are pretty good. They're really good. I loved the story in it, and it even has Miles Morales in it too.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna make an exclusive, it better be good.
No, it's really good. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can't talk too much about the Andrew Garfield ones then because Andy hasn't seen them. I guess just...
no, we could talk about it because like I've heard things.
Okay.
Supposedly he's better than the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and just by like the look of it, I would probably agree. So I think Andrew Garfield looks more like a younger Spider-Man. I'm not sure about the time frame, like if he's in college or high school or whatnot, but I would believe what I've seen of Andrew Garfield as the Spider-Man over the Tobey Maguire version.
Yeah, I think he's in high school in those ones. I think primarily in high school, right? Is he even high school and college in the second one?
I think the second one's on the verge of college. I think he's like a junior the first one, then a senior the second one, because I think they're The whole thing, I think one of the plot points is about where Gwen Stacy's going to go to college and where he's going to go to college, and like maintaining their relationships and stuff like that, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a while. But
Right.
yeah, those movies focus mainly on Gwen Stacy too. We talked about in Spider-Man 3
Yeah.
how she's kind of a tertiary character. I mean, she has a role to play, but we see like the actual love story between her and Gwen Stacy and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, as opposed to the classic MJ and Spider-Man. So that's a really interesting one. And it ends
Well,
tragically.
well, I think that so I think I mentioned in our main episode that I watched the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which is the I think like 1974. My son loves it.
Yeah.
He loves Iceman and Firestar. Uh, uh, Fun fact: Firestar was only created for that animated series, and I don't think used ever since.
I
Nobody knows who
Interesting.
Firestar is.
I didn't
Um,
know who she was before I came over there and saw it on one day.
yeah, but I think in that series, it is Gwen Stacy as like the love interest, um, and still Flash Thompson as the bully. So I do remember like I've seen the Gwen Stacy featured romance before, but it is different from like the animated series from the 90s that we watched, and Tobey Maguire is that's all MJ.
Yeah. And I would agree with what Andy said, that Andrew Garfield's a more believable Peter Parker, both in. I'm sure Andrew Garfield was an adult, but he looks younger. He has that younger look to him. He's very gangly, which actually works better, I think, for somebody who's supposed to look sort of between prepubescent and pubescent there. And he's a really good actor too. On top of that, I think a better actor than Tobey Maguire. I don't think Tobey Maguire's bad by any means, but I think most people would agree that Andrew Garfield's better. And
He actually has facial expressions.
yeah, and I think one of the things that led me to say in the regular episode that I didn't think Tobey Maguire did enough like Spider-Man quips was like how many of them they sprinkled into the Amazing Spider-Man. Like that's all just and they match the body language to it too, with Andrew Garfield's quips throughout. Like his entire fighting style, it's almost like he can't move without saying something to somebody, as opposed to really for Tobey Maguire, it's when mostly things are kind of standing still. Like he does it, but it's in moments that's not full of high action, I guess.
Yeah, I Andrew Garfield is, I think, a good high school Spider-Man, but not all Spider-Man is in high school. There's actually a pretty big like age range of iterations of Spider-Man. Like there is there is adult Spider-Man,
Yeah.
there is college Spider-Man, there is high school Spider-Man, and I think Tobey Maguire definitely fits he would fit a better mid-20s Spider-Man. If they just did that with him, I think he would actually be a more relatable and understandable character, because he's not a high school kid. Like he doesn't even act like one.
Yeah. I mean, it, and they go right into the college stuff the next movie anyway. That they could have skipped right into that, but I think that's probably a syndrome of something we talked about already, which was like they were trying to do everything like by the book Spider-Man, like the things that people know about Spider-Man. He's with MJ. The original Spider-Man, when he's introduced, is a high school student, so he can be relatable to kids. It was like groundbreaking at the time because it was one of the first like kid teenage superheroes that kids could actually relate to, instead of just wishing they would become when they got older. So I think they probably just felt pressure to do everything that people associated in the zeitgeist with Spider-Man the most in that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess he's just they cast him for a high school role though. Like,
Well, I wonder if the intent from the studio was they were going to do 3 movies. Like they knew that this was going to be a
yeah,
trilogy coming out, and who are they going to cast for this trilogy? There's probably a thing like, oh yeah, we'll do Spider-Man and we'll start him in his senior year of high school, and then we'll transition to when he's off the college, and then we'll do him when he's like working. But they forgot about that part when they were writing the third one actually, and they kept him in college again. But it
they
was
had a plan. Is that what you're saying?
they had a plan.
They had a plan.
Plans are good.
They went into it.
Plans are cool. Plans are cool. Even though they don't always work out, because the third one was not the best Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well-
I wonder if Dig on This was part of the plan originally.
I like to think that's a Tobey Maguire ad lib because he's just so horrible.
What were you
going
gonna say,
Could
Andy?
have come up with that.
No, I was just gonna go like, well, I mean, of all the Spider-Man, I think like we would say that maybe Tobey Maguire is our least favorite. It sounds like, even though this is the franchise we chose to watch.
I
For the
don't think so.
Spider-Man?
I actually like him. I actually like him as
Really?
Spider-Man. Yes, I do. I do. I like him in you know. Again, I watched the animated series where he's an adult. And I think all of the animated series. I don't remember any of the series that I've seen that he's a high school student. And I think that's more. Ted, you probably know this. Is that more of like a comic thing? Like, is that where Spider-Man originated in, or were there things of anything in high school prior to Andrew Garfield? I don't remember them. I don't think I've seen anything like that.
I'm pretty sure Spider-Man originated as a high school student. I think
the
that
origin story.
Yeah, I think that was the real draw too. Was like we've got to make a character for kids to relate to.
I guess that makes sense. It's more the origin part of Spider-Man that
Yeah.
is in high school. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
And I think like the origin stuff in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man is like very out of the comic book. Like they go to the genetics lab, the spider is loose, there's no explanation for that, and it bites him. Maybe he's not taking pictures of Mary Jane that he's going to use later, but I think it's just like as by the book as you can get it, because again, I think they were just trying to make it as relatable to people and familiar to people as they possibly could, because this superhero thing hadn't really worked out before. And I think they're trying to get in good graces, kind of like you could argue that when Star Wars came back, and J.J. Abrams took over, a lot of people say that The Force Awakens is very much like A New Hope, and that it felt like that in some aspects because it almost seemed like they wanted to get in the good graces of fans again because there was such a mixed reception, to say the least, about the prequels. So I think with this, it's like, well, we saw how bad those George Clooney Batmans were doing over there, and like, granted, they had bat nipples and stuff, but you gotta try to get in the good graces of the audience if you want to make a superhero movie at that point, a comic book one at that.
Yeah, you want something to be as familiar as possible so that the audience isn't like distracted by the wrong thing. Like you couldn't make Miles Morales the Spider-Man in 2000 and make it a big movie. No one
Right.
wants to go see that.
Right.
They
That's a good
know
point.
their Spider-Man as the one that came about from this origin with his uncle dying, and you probably couldn't even do anything with like changing the character's race or ethnicity or gender back then. That wouldn't work. You might be able to do it now, but when you're introducing this franchise into the world, you want to go with what's most familiar. My point though about him being like the least so it's not the worst, but I'd say like least favorite, at least among the live action, would be my part. Like I haven't seen Andrew Garfield, so I can't talk about his experience, but I'll defer to you guys. I like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I think I've only seen the one movie and then the couple other pieces of like Endgame and stuff he's been in. But I think he's a really good Spider-Man. I think he's funny. I enjoy him as a character. I don't know about Andrew Garfield, I said, but like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was super awkward throughout all of these movies. So I can't say I liked him.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, as far as Tom Holland's, I can definitely agree with that. He's younger. All of these guys are adults, so like we got to remember that. But at least Tom Holland looks like he's in high school. He's got very much like the build and the face of a high school student, which works out for him pretty well for this role. And he's awkward in a different way. He's awkward in like a charming high school student way that like all of us were awkward. Tobey Maguire's awkward in the creepy 20-something way where he just kind of didn't get out of this stage of Arrested Development, it seems, in some ways. And, I like him, but I think he's better as the adult Spider-Man, and I think it serves better, even though 3 is the worst movie. 2 and 3, it serves better to have Tobey Maguire as the Spider-Man for those, because I think he fits that young 20-something Spider-Man better.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that again, that's the Spider-Man I know, is that kind of like mid-20.
Yeah. I was going to say, though, if they did try to go with different race Spider-Man or any differences right away, like you were saying, Andy, it would just be a bunch of assholes saying, not my Spider-Man. Not my Spider-Man. The bumper stickers everywhere would be the worst. Do we want to continue talking about these ones as compared to it, or move on to something else here?
I don't know. Do you have like any comic book reference? Like, I never really read the comics, even though I probably should have. Like, my only experience with Spider-Man outside of the movies were, the animated series. But have you read either of you read any comics? No Spider-Man comics.
I've watched a lot of YouTube origin story videos, like where they reference comics, specifically the very early ones, and like other ones that come along later in like 2008 or whatever that like retcon origin stories and stuff like that. But I haven't read anything specifically. The closest I've gotten is I've read most of the original run of X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men, but Spider-Man showed up once, so that was cool.
In
I'm
X-Men?
trying to see if
Yeah, the Avengers showed up in
That's
like X-Men 5 or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of I remember a lot of those shows do have like some crossover in Marvel. Even Spider-Man and his amazing friends. You see Thor and all the Iron Man and all that.
Yeah, well, I think
Those shows are fun.
They are. Well, I think in even comics they tried to do like the crossover thing to almost promote something. So like X-Men, I know did not do well when it was first released. Despite it like having a good audience, it didn't do well initially. So like introducing something that people do know, like the Avengers, was a good strategy for them to get people to read something.
Mm-hmm.
I've read one of the comics, and I'm actually trying to see if I actually read it or I'm just making this up and remembering that I did. But do you guys remember the 9/11 Spider-Man comic that came out?
No.
So
No.
I'm Googling it right now, and I think I had this, which sucks that I'm seeing now on eBay for like $150. Some guys got his for like 570 on there. But
That definitely would have been something to hold on to.
yeah, because my brother used to work for the whatever magazine newspaper distributor at the time. And so I'm almost positive we had a copy of this, because I remember going through and reading it, and like I'm blanking on his name. What's the villain with the fishbowl on his head? Mr. Mysterio?
Mysterio.
Yeah.
Mysterio. Mr. Mysterio.
Mr. Mysterio. Ray Mysterio.
Ray. I like that. Mysterio is like shows up and like helps go through the rubble or something. I remember that was so powerful looking at that, and it came out right after 9/11. It's a December issue.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
Well, that's interesting. I think I mentioned a little bit about this the other day, but there's a lot of patriotic imagery in these movies. I specifically, like in 3, before he goes and fights Sandman and what's his name?
You're right. I do remember seeing.
Yeah,
I know exactly where you're going.
There's the New Yorkers cheering him on, and he zips in front of a huge American flag just to stop there for a moment.
Flag.
Yeah, huge, clearly CGI American flag. It stops there for a moment, just almost like to pose, and then quickly runs toward the monsters. It's just ridiculous. Like, I know that, like, the timing of everything, especially, I think I mentioned with just... It came out at a time, obviously, that was, like, right after 9/11, the first one. And the whole scene in the second one, too, when he's trying to stop the train and, you know, the kind of, like, New Yorkers help each other out kind of moment where they're kind of having him crowd surf over them because he's just dead tired, passed out, and they see his face, and then they say, you know, we're not going to tell anybody, give him back his mask. You know, interesting moments like that. Like, that's a powerful moment. The one right in front of the American flag is pretty cheesy.
Yeah, very cheesy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with patriotism.
No, but just like specifically
big giant CGI flag.
That there would be a giant flag there, and also that he would just stop to be in front of it for a moment. It would have been better if he was swinging by it. It would have made more sense. But instead, he landed for a second, stood there for a minute, and then left again.
You know, speaking of Sandman and Venom and whatever. So, all right. So I know, Andy, you haven't seen... Let's just go over this one more time. You haven't seen Andrew Garfield. You have seen Far From Home. I imagine you've seen some of the Avengers ones, right? With Tom Holland?
I've seen Infinity War and Endgame.
Well, I guess
you haven't seen Captain America Civil War?
I have not seen Civil War.
Okay.
I thought you watched more Marvel movies than this.
No.
You really don't? What, you don't like them?
I never got into them. I wasn't a Marvel kid. I didn't know I was supposed to like these things. I was waiting for the DC to come out.
They're good movies.
No, poor Andy was waiting for DC to be good.
I was. Well, I never saw what's-it-called, the Superman movie.
Man of Steel?
Which one?
Man of Steel when it came out, and I was so excited for it, but I just like never. All these movies, like a lot of them, are gonna come out in like the mid 2000s to like the teen 2000s. I really didn't watch a lot of movies then. I was into other stuff, so I missed out on like a whole set of films out there. That's why I like doing the podcast with you guys. Is when we get to those franchises, I get to like watch them for the first time.
Yeah, but you have Disney Plus. I mean, they're good movies.
They're on there now. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I can go back and watch.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I've got a podcast or like I'm streaming 4 days a week now, and I'm watching LCS. There's only so much time in the day.
We'll get to them, and we'll force Andy to watch them, and he'll have no choice.
I'll get there.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, but I wanted to ask because I wanted to compare villains because I think the first two villains in the Tobey Maguire ones are probably my favorite in any Spider-Man that I've seen. Right, Green Goblin and Doc Ock. Like those are two of probably the best villains in a lot of superhero movies that I've seen. But like, so I remember in the Andrew Garfield one, it was Jamie Foxx's Electro. Who was the first one?
Who was the
first villain?
I don't know the actor's name, but I know what he looks like. But it was the Lizard. It was
Lizard Man. So it was Connors, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Connors?
Yep.
Right.
And it was a British guy who played him.
Is that the crocodile?
No, so the Lizard is the guy who has he's missing an arm, and he tries to use like the regenerative powers of like geckos and stuff like that.
He's Peter's teacher. Yeah. He's his professor.
Yeah, Dr. Connors.
Yeah. And in doing so, trying to regrow his arm, he turns into a giant lizard monster.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So I don't remember. So it probably wasn't that good. I didn't really like Jamie Foxx as a like stuttering, weird Electro.
Yeah.
So those villains were bad.
Well, there's
Vulture.
more. There's more in specifically the Amazing Spider-Man 2, though, because
Who else was there?
they tried to do the cram a bunch of villains in thing. So
I don't even remember that.
they do Green Hobgoblin, I guess. Like again, like kind of mixing
those
up.
movies are so unmemorable.
Yeah. Well, it's this guy named Dean DeHaan, who's actually a really good actor who plays him, but he's another guy who kind of looks goblin-y, plays Harry, and he becomes Green Goblin, I guess, but really, I don't know, like his dad never becomes Green Goblin, so
New Goblin?
That's the
it's New
thing.
Goblin.
Like,
It's a New Goblin?
that's
fuck
the
kind of
thing.
name is
Like
that?
the Harry Osborn character, I'm pretty sure is supposed to be Hobgoblin, or at the very least, Hobgoblin is somebody who takes after the Green Goblin. So,
Well, from the one I know, no Osborn was a goblin ever. So I feel like that just is a new thing.
oh,
But I mean, that's just from the one series that I know.
While
From
we're
the
talking about
animated?
villains,
Yeah.
I don't want to escape from this conversation too much, but I need to share this right now because I'm freaking out slightly.
Okay.
I just definitely had a Mandela effect moment, and I don't think I'm from this dimension. I am from a different world. We don't live in the same one, because you guys kept saying like the lizard, and I'm like, who the fuck is the lizard? Like, I only remember the crocodile from Spider-Man. And so I Google the crocodile Spider-Man, and the only thing coming up is lizard. So in this fucking crazy world I'm in right now, it's the lizard, but where I come from, it's the crocodile.
Are you
He
sure?
does look like a crocodile. I mean,
He does look like a crocodile,
Yeah.
but not. He's called the crocodile in my world.
Are you
so I
sure
don't
you're not
know-
just thinking of Killer Croc from Batman?
Yeah, it probably is.
Killer Croc?
Yeah,
In my mind, I'm just blending these two characters together.
I think
No.
You
so.
said you're
No,
You're a
a
no,
DC guy.
no, it's not Killer Croc.
And I don't mean like Killer Croc from the fucking Suicide Squad movie. I mean like cartoon Killer Croc.
No, because
Forgot about that.
I'm thinking of the cartoon, the Amazing Spider-Man? Is that the cartoon? Not the Amazing Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. It's just
Just
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man from '94.
Yeah, with that character, he's the crocodile.
No,
Yeah, I mean, he
he's the lizard,
especially
though.
in that cartoon, he looks exactly like a crocodile, but his name is Lizard Man. Like, that's his villain name.
In this world we live in, yeah, but the one where I come from, he's the crocodile.
Fair enough. That happens to me all the time. I get it, but
Well.
I just think you're mistaken. That's all.
I've got some
I'm from a
questions
different
for
dimension.
you about your dimension then. But
In
mean,
my
I de-
dimension, Ari Melber from MSNBC does not look the same either, so it's okay. That's for a different
I
podcast.
love Ari Melver. He's great. So anyway, the just to get back to my villain comparison, I think it's safe to say that those movies are so unmemorable. I'm not even going to consider the villains. But
Yeah.
Andy, you haven't seen Homecoming, so you didn't see Vulture.
No.
Vulture is very good, played by Michael
so
Keaton.
good.
That's
He's
what I
So
heard.
good.
so good that he's one of the best Marvel MCU villains.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that means he's better or on the same level as the ones from the Tobey Maguire movies, because those are really fucking good villains. But man, I loved
Oh my
Michael
God, I'm so
Keaton
sorry.
as that.
My YouTube just randomly started on my phone. I'm really sorry about that.
Oh, I didn't even hear anything.
Okay, sorry. Well, then sorry I mentioned it.
Yeah, that's more distracting. The Vulture is a great one. Mysterio in Far From Home is pretty good. It's what's his name? Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good.
It was good, and I really liked that they kind of throw you for a loop with that one. Even though everybody knew he was going to turn out to be the villain, they play it up as maybe, just maybe, he's actually a hero in this multiverse, this version of Spider-Man. And they do a really good job of using the special effects and pyrotechnics and illusions that Mysterio uses as a character in the comics and making it like a real world comparison to that stuff. Because like you're looking at it when you're first introduced to him and you're seeing everything and you're thinking, well, that's all CGI, like magic bullshit, like every other magical superpowered character in this universe. And then you realize he's just got super high powered projectors that are able to make holograms appear and make it appear as though there are actual threats in front of him, and that's his whole motivation, is to become a hero to outshine Iron Man, because he used to work for Tony Stark and Tony Stark screwed him over, as Tony Stark is wont to do when he's a younger guy.
That universe is so fucking deep.
It really is.
Like, oh my god, the way you just described that is just layer upon layer. It's so crazy.
Well, yeah, that goes back to like Tony Stark from before Iron Man, the original Iron Man that we see, like that asshole Tony Stark. It's so incredible how they're able to take these little threads from a movie that's not necessarily even the same character property as the one you're doing and plop it into this one. And it's important too, because in the MCU Spider-Man's, Tony Stark is the mentor figure to Peter, because we don't get to see the Uncle Ben, at least so far, in any way, shape, or form. I don't know if we'd ever get anything in a prequel or a flashback or anything like that, but right now we only have Aunt May, and Tony Stark serves as that surrogate father figure for Peter.
Does he ever mention Uncle Ben in that? I don't remember.
I don't remember. I don't think so. And if they
There's
do...
not a lot. Here's why I think that series stands out. Like the Tom Holland Spider-Man. Not only is he just a good actor, he's a good Spider-Man, but they don't waste your time with origin Spider-Man. They're like, you've seen this so many times, so we're gonna spare you the origin, and you're just gonna get cool Spider-Man.
Yeah, Batman movies could take a fucking cue from them.
Yeah. Yeah,
every
for
time I have to see fucking Bruce Wayne's parents murdered one more time. Pearls just splashing on the floor.
Poor Martha.
Martha.
Get that name in your mouth, and then like it's kind of like stuck. You're like, oh, Martha.
Why did you say that name, Andy? Why? Oh man, great movies those are, huh?
Yeah, Tom Holland Spider-Man is great. Plus, he gets J. Jonah Jameson back, J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where that goes with the kind of InfoWars layer of that.
Is there another Spider-Man coming out in this? What is it? Phase 4 or whatever?
Yeah, Spider-Man 3 is filming right now.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I love the MCU Spider-Man movies. I don't know if I like those or the Sam Raimi one.
Yeah, 1 and 2 from Sam Raimi are really tough to beat.
I know. They're really good.
Yeah.
But so, you guys want to get into some Spider-Verse shit?
Sure.
All right, so we all saw Into the Spider-Verse, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That one you saw.
Saw Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay. All right. That's a good thing. So is that just a gateway into like what we'll see in the MCU? Like just kind of opening up the door for it? Or does that actually relate to, like, is the lore Into the Spider-Verse like going to be part of, you know what I mean? The MCU lore? Like Miles Morales, Spider-Gwen, maybe not Spider-Pig.
I don't think they would be connected like that, because it's the two different like entire properties. Like, yes, Sony has.
Oh, that's true. That's all Sony.
Yeah. So it's separate from Marvel, but Marvel's not gonna like shy away from that same story element. And you better believe that if we're gonna get like this whole mixed Spider-Man universe, so we'll get the Tobey Maguire, the Tom Holland, the Andrew Garfield all together. I feel like you're gonna have to have the Miles Morales in there too, because
I
it
do
is
too. Yeah.
it's canon now in a sense, like people's head canon. I'm sure the average moviegoer doesn't know that Venom doesn't take place in the MCU. It's just a Marvel movie. And in fact, it says Marvel before the movie begins. So you probably think, oh, yeah, this is a part of that whole same universe. So they're not going to, jump way into it and probably make that explicit connection. But they could easily do the explicit, hey, little Easter egg by throwing us our multiple Spider-Men.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's interesting, though, that you mentioned Venom, because I remember when Venom came out, they specifically said that when the rights reverted back to Sony for the Tom Holland Spider-Man, that Sony was at least saying that, well, we think that Venom, played by Tom Hardy, actually ties into the universe that we want to make at Sony with the Tom Holland Spider-Man. So they at least had thoughts about that. That could have been just posturing, because there was the whole thing where they were just trying to, work out a better deal for them with Marvel to continue everything with the Tom Holland Spider-Man. But I also think there's maybe something to that where, like, Venom was so self-contained, there's no mention of Spider-Man whatsoever, that they possibly could have tied that in somehow. There are some, like, weird threads to that, though, like, the Venom in the Tom Hardy verse has the spider on its chest, even though seemingly it was never introduced to Spider-Man, so that really doesn't make any sense, because he takes on that form because he was attached to Spider-Man's suit. The Venom symbiote doesn't just naturally have a spider logo on its chest. So
I heard that wasn't there like a Spider-Man filmed in it, and it was just cut
In Venom?
in Venom? Yeah,
Is that true?
I'm might be misremembering something, and it just might have been a rumor on the internet. But I thought I heard something that originally Spider-Man was going to be in Venom.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Did you know if it was going to be Tom Holland Spider-Man?
I think that was like what the debate at the time was who was going to be this Spider-Man? Was it going to be, and that's how some of these like rumors about it being,
Like, could it even be Tom Holland just legally? Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Huh.
That is interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's a Spider-Man villain. I mean, he's got to be involved somehow, right? I mean, what other?
You would think so. I mean,
where else could he fit in?
He's one of the most iconic villains of Spider-Man's too. Like, Spider-Man has quite the rogues gallery, but if you don't get to Venom at some point, that's going to be a huge disappointment for a lot of fans, I think.
Did you guys ever play that video game for like PS2 or PS1 even?
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about? The animated one.
It was really
Spider-Man.
good.
That's a great game, right?
Yeah.
It had like that had the Sinister Six in it too.
Yeah, I remember. I have like
the Giant Mysterio.
Yeah, Giant Mysterio. I've got like really vivid memories of fighting against the Rhino and that.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, speaking
that was
of
great.
Rhino,
I got it. What?
Oh, what?
Rhino?
Yeah, really quickly. Rhino. There was like a brief thing with Rhino in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Do you remember when Paul Giamatti was the Rhino at the end of that? And like, they played it up in the trailers like we were gonna get Green Goblin, Rhino, and Electro, and really, it technically had the 3 villain problem, but it was just like and not even end credit scene, like scene right before roll credits, and it was just mid fight. They didn't even really start it, so that was kind of disappointing. They marketed it like there was going to be something happening there.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
I forgot about Paul Giamatti, though.
Yeah.
So
So weird.
I just Googled to figure out where I heard this from. You know who brought this up? Jay Washington was the supposed leak of this information. He has a source supposedly from somewhere in Sony that says Tom Holland filmed a scene and then uh, Disney said take him out. The scene cannot be in the movie.
Wow.
Is it just Jay Washington that said this? Is he the only one reporting it?
He's
I don't know.
he's the person that where it came from, but he says he has a source within Sony.
Hmm.
So don't know
I
how
don't know how-
believable it is, but
Yeah, I don't know how
I heard
reliable
it
that
on the
is, but-
internet.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I think that he should be. I think he should be in it at some point, or at least referenced.
Yeah.
Because there is a Venom 2 coming out, right?
I think so.
Or maybe it was rumored to be shot. I don't know. Because what's the other symbiote's name? That
Carnage.
Carnage, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Who was that at the end of? Do you remember that movie? At the end of the movie, they show it was a big actor. I can't remember who it was though.
Yeah. I watched that movie with you, and I
Did we
remember
watch that
us.
together?
I remember us both just being like, "Yeah, all right," that
That's
was
fine.
pretty unspectacular.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was though. It's probably Johnny Depp or something, and because he's free from
That might
being
be it.
Grindelwald now.
That might be it.
Yeah.
Well, the next Venom movie, it actually is supposed to come out. Has been delayed from June 25th, which originally was supposed to come out October 2020. Holy shit! It was supposed to come out last year.
See,
Yeah.
I knew it was supposed to come out.
But the title's Venom. Let there be carnage.
Oh.
So
The Carnage.
Carnage.
Character. Yeah.
Carnage. Yeah, that's right.
Hmm.
Interesting. Well, I don't know if we'll see Tom Hardy in the MCU, but I do think there is a good possibility of seeing, the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, even just for like a cameo or something. I don't know that it really could be any more in a Spider-Verse in the MCU. Right?
Maybe.
Can you see them having a bigger role than just an appearance?
I could see maybe Andrew Garfield only having an appearance and Tobey Maguire having a bigger role. Especially
got
if they
nothing
want to
going
play
on.
up that adult interacting with young Peter Parker thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, because they played that up quite a bit in Into the Spider-Verse, even though it wasn't like two Peter Parkers interacting, it was an older Peter Parker and Miles Morales. I think it'd be even more interesting to see, like, well, this is the Peter Parker from this universe. He looks totally different from me because he's from a different universe, and he's older than me. Maybe there's some kind of mentor role, like at least small role that can be played in that while he's passing through a multiverse or something like that. I don't know. I'm excited to see if they do that, though, because I know there's been rumors that they're going to have them incorporated in it somehow, and I think we have to see the new Doctor Strange first, though, correct? The Multiverse of Madness. I think that leads into
that would make sense.
the new Spider-Man. I think they come out with that one first before the new Spider-Man, too.
Well, I mean, but I think the rumor kind of came up, or at least the direction of the Spider-Verse type thing came up because there was a mention of like a multiverse already in. I think it was Far From Home, right? And isn't that where
Far
they put
From
it?
Home is because I keep on calling him Doctor Mysterio, Mr. Mysterio.
Just
mentioned-
Mysterio.
Yeah, that's where he comes from. Is he says he's from an alternative Earth 36.
Yeah, that ends up being a lie, though.
Right.
But they've
Oh, yeah, that's
introduced
right.
the idea.
Yeah, they introduced
of it.
the
They've said-
idea as a fake idea at first, almost like a toe in the water kind of thing. And then they're going to say, well, we're actually going to go into that because, again, we do have... obviously, we don't know what it's going to be about, but Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I can't imagine it's not about multiverses if that's in the title.
Well, and hold up, though. It doesn't come out before Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 comes out first.
Interesting. I thought it was the
Yes.
other way around.
I mean, I wonder if we'll just maybe see. I think that it's more likely that we'll see Miles Morales and just Miles Morales than the other Peter Parkers, because even you mentioned it to like in the Spider-Verse, into the Spider-Verse, it's not just a bunch of Peter Parkers. It's like all sorts of different, folks who get Spider-Man powers.
Folks
It's
and
not just Peter
pigs
Parker.
and noir people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah. Weird
And
noir
young
people.
girls who get a spider robot. So 'cause
Yeah.
she's not even Spider-Man. Her robot
Her
thing is
robot is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird stuff. Like it's not a bunch of Peter Parkers, but I think that I think it would make more sense in that context, and it doesn't have to be, right? They can just take the idea of multiverse or whatever. But I think it's more probable that we'll see Miles Morales, especially since we've seen him in Spider-Verse. He's in the new Spider-Man game. He's kind of being introduced into, the media, I think for a purpose. So I think that it would actually make sense to see maybe at the end of the movie Miles Morales show up, and that would lead into the multiverse of madness. Doctor Strange might have to, explore the multiverse and figure out what's going on.
Let me throw this out there. So we're talking about the kind of mentor figure in Spider-Man's life, particular Peter Parker from the MCU. What if his mentor was the older Miles Morales Spider-Man that he meets through the multiverse, and it's played by Donald Glover?
Well,
Good, that would be awesome.
There you go. That's your welcome.
Donald Glover
Marvel.
shows up though in Spider-Man Homecoming. He's actually
isn't it?
he plays a character who's like a weapons dealer.
That's right.
And he's
forgot Donald Glover
actually,
was in
if you look up like what his character name is, I think it's something Morales, and he's the uncle. So the uncle who ends up being evil in Spider-Man, the Into the Spider-Verse, I think that's who Donald Glover plays in the live-action MCU one.
kidding.
I might be wrong though. I know he plays a relative of Miles Morales, so I don't know if
Aaron Davis / the Prowler.
Okay, so yeah.
He's the Prowler.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's the character
right.
who's the big bad
Yeah.
in Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh my god, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't
it's
know
a
that
good
until now.
idea.
I remember the
Well,
character.
I was going to
but-
mention that too,
Retcon.
was that, Miles Morales is somewhat introduced through family, I guess, And I think he says too, like, I've got a nephew in this area and I don't want these weapons being around here or whatever. I think, which is why he...
Damn, they're slick, bro.
Yeah.
They're so slick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they introduce these tiny little threads that we might see, we might not see, but they're there just in case they ever want to revisit it. And it's as simple as...
I get so impressed every time we talk about Marvel. God, they're so good.
Yeah, I wish more studios could be like them. They have a plan, and even when they don't have a plan, it's leading into something potentially. Like, they open up all these threads just because they can, and then they can revisit them at any point. It's amazing. It's like an actual comic book universe where they can just pick and pull from anything.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
I know. It's amazing. And I'm actually reading the wiki right now. Donald Glover also voiced Miles Morales in the Ultimate Spider-Man TV series.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's been around Spider-Man for a little bit.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Donald Glover in anything, I'm all for. God, he's
I didn't know he was in the first one. Now I got to go watch that one.
Yeah, you do, but
You gotta watch
I don't
them
think
in
you're able
general.
to find it anyway.
Yeah,
I think you have to rent it.
That's on Disney Plus, correct? Because
It's not.
Oh,
the
yeah,
Sony
Spider-Man on
ones
Disney
aren't.
Plus. No.
That and the original Hulk movie with Edward Norton isn't on
Ed Norton,
Disney
you're right.
Plus,
Yeah.
which is weird. I actually showed that to Silas the other day when he was over here because we were looking for something to watch when we were eating. I'm like, hey, I've got a new Hulk that you haven't seen because he's got this Hulk obsession right now. And
Yeah, he does.
I just fast forwarded to all the moments where Hulk showed up and he loved it.
Nice.
He fought Abomination.
Yep.
Abomination. He says
Absolutely.
Is that part of the MCU technically, right?
It is, yeah. It's the
Yeah.
second movie in the MCU. It goes
Yeah.
Iron Man, then the Hulk. Edward
But
Norton.
have they revisited any of those threads other than, I guess, Mark Ruffalo continuing on as the Hulk?
The only thread that's revisited is Thunderbolt Ross is played by the same character.
Okay.
You see him, I think, in the beginning of Civil War. He's the one who's like laying out from S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever, or not even from S.H.I.E.L.D., but from the government, saying that we have to do something about you superheroes and the collateral damage that you all cause. And it happens to be the same guy who plays him. I don't remember, though, if Mark Ruffalo's in the room for that part, because that'd be awkward. I actually got to go back and watch that to see, because Thunderbolt Ross is the father of Betsy Ross, his love interest in all of the iterations of the Hulk, who's played by Liv Tyler in the Edward Norton one. They could probably replace her, too, though, at this point.
Yeah, no one know. I mean, Don Cheadle replaced what's his name?
Yeah.
Forrest Whitaker.
And what's his name?
Oh no, it's Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard.
Yeah.
Forrest Whitaker. That would be an interesting.
Not the same person. Sorry.
I don't think he would fit as well into the War Machine suit.
Had to stuff him in there a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you here to kill me?
Now we're going the Rogue One Forrest Whitaker.
Oh man. Pretty
The
great
Bulk of
character. Saw Gerrera.
Oh my god. So anyway, that's my that's my Miles Morales thing. I definitely want to see him in a Spider-Man. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. I wonder.
That's where we came from, just in case anybody was wondering.
Yeah. I'd be really interested to see if they like went in a totally different direction, with whatever Spider-Man they introduce. So like, say it's Tobey Maguire, and it's like an older, grizzled Tobey Maguire, and like kind of like what we see with different iterations of Batman, like at different points in his career, he's either, the young, spry crime fighter, or he's the guy who's just fed up with this shit. I wonder if maybe, because we see in the Tobey Maguire verse, it seems like something like 9/11 maybe happened. I don't know if they're really saying that, but it's in NYC. It comes out right after that. So like maybe all these different things like that, all these villains he's faced, MJ getting kidnapped every fucking day. Maybe he just becomes jilted and disgruntled about everything, and maybe he's like an anti-hero, maybe villain at some point, and maybe he's trying to do something to the other Spider-Man and then the other multiverses, or maybe he's trying to infiltrate somebody else's so he can escape his. I'd be really interested to see something like that, where one of the Spider-Men is like so upset, or everything's so far gone in his multiverse that he would like try to replace the one that is in the current one.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like a anti-hero Spider-Man.
Yeah. I feel like if you're going to have a multiverse, you can't have all good Spider-Men, right?
I guess so.
It's an infinite number of worlds, so there are potentially an infinite number of evil Spider-Men.
Yeah. There's even a comic thread I know about that Doc Ock transfers his consciousness into Peter Parker at one point and becomes Spider-Man for a while. At first, it's to like undermine Spider-Man, but then eventually he actually like ends up liking saving people and being the hero, and recognized as the hero rather than recognized as the villain. That would be maybe interesting. Like maybe have Alfred Molina in a different multiverse defeat Spider-Man, transfer his consciousness into him, and then go back into another multiverse and try to fuck with things.
And I'd be the one to say that's a little crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But, it's in the comics, so...
That's nuts.
Spider-Man from an alternative universe actually gets his mind taken over by a villain from another universe, that then that Spider-Man goes into the new universe to cause trouble for the universe that we're more familiar
It's just
with.
a lot. It's
mean,
just a lot.
Okay, but that's like me describing an actual comic, though. Like, that's how
I know,
comics work, is like,
yeah.
comics are very
true.
much just a lot.
That's true.
And that's why you can pick and choose little threads from them and nobody's upset, because it's like, well, this was like 3/4 of the way a really good story, but then this thing jumped the shark and it was stupid. So you can take half of that story and half of this story and mash them together, and people will love the references from them, as opposed to something like Star Wars right now, where there's no already introduced body of work that you can just pick and pull from. And because of that, people get upset if you change anything about the established stuff we already have. Not even change it, if you change their thoughts of it. I don't want to get into that, though.
Different podcast.
Yeah.
Hold on. Just to kind of tie this together, though, not really like a multi-universe thing, but to put in your thoughts for later and think about this too, is the character development of it's Peter B. Spider-Man, I think, right, from Into the Spider-Verse. What's his name? And Luke
Peter B.
Peter
Spider-Man?
Peter B. Parker. Peter B. Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think
Parker.
of Parker, but I was just trying to think of Peter B. and then whatever his
That would be amazing. Peter B. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Yeah, no. But anyways, the point being, because you mentioned Star Wars there, it's the same character arc between the two of them, Luke Skywalker and Peter B. Parker.
Interesting.
It is?
It's the same character arc. Blew my mind.
So I can see it.
Go if you go back now and look at it, it's pretty crazy how some of the things line up with it.
I can definitely see that.
I'm picturing the arc in the Into the Spider-Verse now. I'm seeing that a little bit. I'm seeing that. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
So who did it? Who wore it better? Peter Parker or Luke?
Who wore what better?
I don't know.
The arc.
Well, the fans
arc.
really like Into the Spider-Verse and really don't complain about it.
Oh, that's what I thought you were asking. Who would wear it better, Tobey Maguire or Mark Hamill?
I'd love to see Mark Hamill in a spandex suit.
Right now, yeah.
God.
That would be amazing. Mark Hamill now in the Spider-Man suit. He would absolutely do it, too, if somebody asked him.
I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like he's a super fun guy. He would do it.
Let's get on Twitter. Hey, if you follow the Franchise Flicks podcast on any of our social media, well, why don't you just tag Mark Hamill in said social media and try to get him into a Spider-Man costume?
The worst you can do is say no.
Into Spider-Man.
But also make sure you tag us in it too, though, so we're like in that tweet thread or whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope we can get this done. But I probably won't pay attention to see if it does.
Well, you'll be paying attention when it does happen. I'll let you know.
All right. Let me
you
know. Let me know. It's confidence.
Well, do we have any more thoughts on Spider-Verse stuff? Because I kind of want to talk about maybe what Spider-Man 4 would have looked like for this universe, because it ends on a really anticlimactic note. Like, we talked about some of the issues.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Like, just for a quick little recap, Sandman kind of just disappears after being forgiven immediately. And we had a very long conversation about the implications of that whole thing and on Peter's arc, and that's neither here nor there right now.
Well.
No, it's neither here nor there, as I said. I shouldn't have even mentioned it. But Harry's dead at the end of that, and even them, they had a way too chummy experience with each other during that fight, because Harry spent like several years hating both Peter and Spider-Man. I actually have one of my favorite lines, because we mentioned how much he hated Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. When he saves Harry, when Doc Ock's whole experiment blows up and everything, he says, "I can't believe he embarrassed me by touching me." It's like,
That's a
really,
good
bro?
line.
That
He's so dramatic.
Yeah. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. He saved your life and you're worried about being embarrassed by the fact that he touched you? Give me a break. But you got a lot of these implications with him being dead. You've got not sure where Mary Jane and Peter stand. And, maybe because of that, maybe if Peter kind of regained himself after having the symbiote, maybe they don't work out. And maybe he goes with Gwen Stacy if he's able to apologize to her some way.
I don't know that he's ever going to be able to get over that one.
That's probably a tough one to do, but I guess
This.
It ends
You don't come back from that.
That's true. And being literally used as just an object to make another person jealous isn't great. But I guess, and Dr. Connors is introduced in the movies, but we don't see that come to fruition. So,
right?
I don't know. I kind of want to talk about maybe what our thoughts are on how we could progress in this. Does anybody have any ideas for maybe a Spider-Man 4?
Hit the nail on the head right there. You've got a character that's been not underutilized, but introduced, who happens to be the crocodile in my universe, or the lizard man in yours, or just the lizard, Mr. Lizard. He's there, so that's a potential villain that you can just pull from with the same cast of characters. You don't have to, unless he's dead. I don't know that actor if he's still around or not, but you got your villain right there from within the story that you laid the groundwork for 2 movies ago.
All right.
I know.
Well, with that then,
I agree.
in order to have him turn into the crocodile or the lizard, depending on what universe you live in, how does he lose his arm? We got to talk about that.
He had lost his arm before we saw him in Spider-Man 2, right?
I think he's got both of his arms. Dr. Connor does in the
He does in
Tobey
Spider-Man 2.
Maguire verse. Yeah, it'd be really awkward if he just had no arm from one movie to the other, and it's not even touched upon whatsoever.
They never explain it.
Are you trolling me right now?
You get a new haircut, Doc? Something's different about you.
His sleeves just flopping. What do you mean?
Yeah.
I think he had one arm in both movies, right?
No, he had both arms.
He had one arm on each side.
No, you're kidding, right?
No, he had 2 arms.
Why do I? Are you serious?
Yeah,
why do I
you not
remember
go
him
to a
having
different
one arm?
dimension? You're not from this dimension.
Oh my god, no way. No way. All right, now I have to look this up. That's crazy.
When did we shift at the same? We probably shifted at the same time, Zach. It was probably during our 5-hour podcast yesterday, or whenever we recorded.
We must have just.
Well, that's pretty awesome then. So each of us are maybe not from, but have been to. No.
He has one arm.
Are you looking at it?
I'm looking at it right now. He has one arm.
What?
I knew I wasn't crazy.
Okay, let's see here.
You guys are crazy.
Well,
He's
I
got
mean, we
one
know we're
arm.
crazy, but
And this just adds weight to my argument the other day
Okay.
that I'm right and you guys are wrong. Pretty much always.
No, that doesn't prove that. But
think it
yeah,
does.
I guess you're right. But they hit it well. They hit it well.
No, they didn't.
Yeah. I
He
never
had one
noticed
arm.
it, so they definitely hit it well. Okay, well, forget my question then. How does he lose his arm? Doesn't matter at this point.
I mean, I still want to know. I just don't think we're going to ever see it. Because we don't need to.
Yeah. I didn't
Because
realize.
oh yeah,
always
he's
had
only
one
got
arm.
one arm. Look at that.
I know.
Well, shit.
I can't believe you both tried to convince me he had 2 arms.
Because he's got his hand in it. It looks like it's just in his pocket right now. So if you're watching,
That's the thing. They actually do hide it kind of well, because the predominant picture on Google there is it's almost reaching his pocket, that hand. And not only that, it's not just a flopping sleeve, it's kind of like tied off at the end almost, it looks like. So it looks like it's shorter, like a hand in a pocket.
Kurt Connors isn't paying attention to his suit fashion. He's a doctor. He doesn't care about what his floppy arm looks like.
Clearly he does.
Done.
All he does is try to fucking grow the thing back.
That's true. That is his motivation.
That is his motivation. So, proof that I am always right and you are always wrong. Thank you.
that is his main drive. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Well, I think in Spider-Man 4 we'd have to see Lizard, right? I mean,
yeah, I think so.
He's just left open.
Yeah, and I don't think, especially after how bad the 3 villain thing worked and how well the only 1 villain thing worked in the first 2 movies, that they would go back to the like the 3rd one and try to introduce more villains. So I think Dr. Connors has to be your villain. Just him.
Yeah.
Unless Sony's stupid enough to go back.
Well,
to
they
that.
are stupid enough. So who is that? Who is that villain going to be? I feel like we have to have the Kingpin, you know? We got to like introduce him at some point.
Well, I feel like it's too late for that because a bunch of the Sinister Six are already dead. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So Sandman's gone.
Doc Ock's
I guess
gone.
we didn't really. Doc Ock's gone, right? I guess those are the only ones in this one, but that only leaves Vulture, Electro, Mysterio.
Well, that's the original Sinister Six, but there are different iterations in the comics. I mean, they could pick and choose from any iteration they want to, and honestly, they could do whatever they want with it too. I mean, look at not that it's a good team up movie, but Suicide Squad. The Joker and Harley Quinn are not part of the Suicide Squad usually. So I think if they really wanted to, they could pick and choose from anywhere.
That's true.
With whoever they have. But yeah, you'd want to go with the original one as much as you could, especially with how these movies started off with going with 2 very original Spider-Man villains, very iconic ones. So I get that desire to do that. But yeah, who would that second one be? I mean, Kingpin would be interesting, but I almost feel like you would have heard more about Kingpin by this point if he were in that universe because, you know, he's a Kingpin essentially. He's working kind of
like the big bad.
Yeah, he's working like in the underbelly. I feel like you would have heard some rumblings about him and what was going on. Some maybe like street level guys that Spider-Man beats up occasionally. You know, who you working for? The Kingpin, whatever. And like it's just kind of dropped as a thread. I feel like if they wanted to introduce that, they easily could have anytime he was just fighting anybody that was a street level villain. Vulture would be interesting, but I don't know how they do Vulture without like. I think the way they did it in the MCU was a really interesting way, tying it back to the events of the Avengers movies. I don't know how you make a realistic Vulture in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man universe.
Yeah, it's not quite as mystical.
Yeah,
I guess for lack of a better term. What about Kraven the Hunter?
What's his deal?
You guys ever
I
seen
don't
him?
really know much about him. I know
Kraven
the
the
name,
Hunter.
but that's about it.
He was like feral, I think.
Okay.
Like, and he's on. It's a similar thing. Like he's like under some sort of magical thing that makes him have to hunt stuff, and so he goes feral. But he's like, I think he's Russian or something.
Well,
I don't know. I actually don't know that much about him. I just think he's cool.
how do we introduce magic into this Spider-Man universe, though, too? Because
I don't really know like what his actual, origin is
Yeah.
in terms of that.
But that'd be an interesting thing, too, because they don't really go into that. They go with the more grounded, science-based or, alien when we're talking about the symbiote. So I don't know.
No, Zach's got it. It's definitely Kraven.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because Boss Logic did a mock-up with what's it called, Jason Momoa, and it looks fucking
My God, that would be a great
badass.
cast.
That's
Holy
it.
shit.
That's it right there. I'll drop in
I
the
I
Discord.
could totally see Jason Momoa playing Kraven the Hunter. That would be amazing. That would be
That's him.
amazing.
It's right there.
Oh yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Oh, we'll have to leave the link in the description. That is perfect. All right, now I have to actually like figure out what he's all about.
That's the
I
thing.
mean, they'll just give the backstory. Like something happened and somehow he meets up with
All right, wait. Here
Dr.
it is. So,
Connors.
by regularly ingesting the potion made from various unnamed jungle herbs, Kraven grants himself superhuman physical abilities, making him a physical threat to Spider-Man through these powers. Though these powers are not as developed as those possessed by Spider-Man. So he's like I guess like I said, I think he was feral, and that's like kind of what he's like foraging and look for, and then he becomes this superhuman.
That would be
hunter.
A cool origin for him, is like he's this hipster forager who goes to a foreign country and he's looking for wild mushrooms and all this
He's got
shit.
bad mushrooms.
Yeah, and he's just looking for anything he can forage, and he's also probably looking for a pretty good trip too. And he mixes the right combination of stuff, and he becomes like this just wild man and super powerful. I think that would be really interesting and like relate
Jason
to...
Momoa would look like the guy from the commercial where
Yes,
he like takes
it's
everything.
what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the reverse. Like in the reverse, he's gonna go from that and then turn into Jason Momoa.
They already have that CG. We can do
so
it
good.
so easily, and it actually looks
It's
pretty
so
good for that commercial. They do a really good job with that. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, we just wrote a movie.
Oh my God.
We just wrote a movie. Let's just make a Kraven the Hunter movie.
We should probably stop broadcasting this so this can't be stolen by
Oh, you're right about that.
Sony. But
Well, we should suggest that somebody else makes a Kraven the Hunter movie.
yeah.
Can we at least do that? All right, perfect.
Yeah, we don't have the rights to it. So like even though we have these ideas, it doesn't matter. Like we can
Right,
we can
yeah,
say
right.
like Sony's gonna be like, yeah, okay, thank you, but we own this. So
We're gonna make our own
I made
knockoff
this.
Spider-Man. It's gonna be Scorpion Man, another arachnid, and it's gonna be
no, it's non-gender. Yeah, like it's non-binary.
yeah.
Non-binary arachnid person.
Will be known as the Brave kind of cinematic universe, you know? Wait,
No, what does that
by-
mean?
By
No,
brave, do you mean
we're like
progressive?
hashtag Brave. But by having a non-gender specific main character, a gender fluid main character. That's what you were just suggesting, right?
Yeah, I did. I was making the connection with brave. For some reason, I was thinking like that meant something else.
Oh no,
But you mean,
hashtag
like,
Brave.
we're just being brave.
No. No, but like compared to
Hashtag brave.
compared to Marvel and say like other Disney properties like Star Wars, where it was like hashtag Brave, that they had two characters that were female kiss each other at the end of Star Wars with like no other thread talking about their relationship together and anything else before. It was just,
Yeah, that's hashtag brave. All right.
here we go, which I'm totally fine with, but just like slapping it in there, I guess, didn't really feel like it made any sense. But anyway, well, we wrote Spider-Man 4, so that's great. The other thing I wanted to talk about, it's just stuff we didn't really get to in the main episode. Just some funny moments and lines and stuff that we noticed. So, like, one of the things that I thought when I heard this line, so it's not even like a funny line, but it made me think of you, Zach. So, Aunt May says, "You're not Superman, you know," to Peter in either the first or second one. And first of all, I thought, like, first of all, Aunt May, wrong universe, wrong comic universe, totally
That's
wrong
a good
here.
point. They shouldn't have even referenced it.
But then I also thought, and I like heard your voice in my head when she said it. Like your retort probably would have been like, "Yeah, he's not fucking boring."
It's like fucking good.
Yeah.
I don't want to be Superman.
Yeah, Spider-Man's way more interesting than Superman.
So much more interesting than Superman.
Yeah, well, I know how
Fuck
you feel
Superman.
about Superman. Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
wish
our
my son
podcast
didn't like
stance
Superman.
is fuck Superman on this podcast.
Yeah, that's how we feel.
Yeah,
That's how we feel.
did you guys have any moments, lines?
Man, you got to have something. I don't really
We already talked
remember
about it.
many lines.
We already talked about all yours.
Yeah, because my lines were they had to do with because I noticed them because they were intended to be funny, but I just thought they were really cringy because it had to do like did your nice dress, did your husband get that
Right,
for
right.
you?
Oh yeah.
Another one from the first movie was they were talking about like who Spider-Man was, and someone goes, well, it could be a woman. Like they were trying to like be funny, not even like woke with it, because this is 2002. We don't even have like wokeness yet in our culture. So this was just them trying to be like funny with it, and I didn't laugh. I literally cringed.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Well,
I remember a couple of those.
So, one thing that I noticed, it was the first time I've noticed this, like, after seeing these movies, like, multiple times. We talked about how they're, like, always on TBS and stuff. When Peter gets his powers, you know, he wakes up and, like, after kind of, like, his trippy dream and, like, kind of convulsing and stuff, he wakes up, he's ripped, takes the glasses off, everything like that. There's a moment where he looks down at his dick.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're implying that either his dick is bigger or it's got like spider legs, like a spider dick. I'm not sure. I'm assuming
Definitely
probably
think it's
just
more of a
bigger.
size joke.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was very funny. I'm just like, I'd never noticed that before. It just went right over my head as a kid, which it probably shouldn't have, because I was right at that age where like I was starting to have those awakenings, you know, where I should have.
All you're doing is looking at your dick.
Yeah, pretty much. I should have been like, I know that look. But usually I'm not as impressed as he is by his. It's like, yeah, all right. Man,
It's funny.
that was a
My
funny one
my
to me.
favorite part. I know that this is the worst movie, but I love when he is the like the cocky Peter Parker when he's talking on the phone, and it's the Russian girl or whatever is offering him cake, and he's just on the phone. How about some milk? He's like, what the fuck? I don't know. I think we actually might have talked about that yesterday, because the milk
think
is
so.
just so. Oh my god,
It's the milk
so
trope.
bad.
It's
It
worth
is.
mentioning more than once. Though.
I didn't notice
It's-
that. That's right. We did talk about it, because I didn't notice that until we talked about it. But it just makes it so much worse.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, he really strings her along too. Feel bad.
But first, they're so awkward.
Yeah.
Like she just watches him eat cake in his apartment.
Well, you know,
It's
she's
really
trying to
weird.
win him over. I think in both movies, at least 2 and 3, when he was living in the apartment, she offers him some kind of sweets.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's cake and cookies. She's
Yeah.
always baking.
you know, they say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Maybe that's what she's thinking.
Well, and if we want to tie this back into our previous speculation stuff too, maybe she's the new love interest. You know, he's gonna give the Russian chick a shot.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean,
Doesn't seem
he's
like they really
Spider-Man.
clicked.
Maybe he likes a woman who's all spindly like her, spider-like. You know, she's very very thin, almost concerning levels of thin.
Very, very thin.
Yeah. In fact, she should be eating some more of the sweets that she makes. I don't think she eats enough of them. But
Yeah, right.
I think like the last thing that I noticed, just as like a interesting moment, not even interesting, like I thought it was stupid. So remember when Peter and Mary Jane are in the restaurant and Doc Ock is set out to find Peter so he can then turn find Spider-Man, doesn't obviously know that he's Spider-Man. So, like, this scene makes no sense because he throws a fucking car through the window of the shop that they only dodge because Peter has his spidey senses and, like, those abilities. And I'm just like, why, as Doc Ock, are you throwing a fucking car into your one lead to Spider-Man? He doesn't know he's Spider-Man at that point. He has no clue. It makes for a cool scene where he saves her, but I'm just like, from a character level, like, the only thing that I understand is, like, Doc Ock is clearly losing his mind and, like, losing his humanity at that point. But other than that, I was just like, what are you doing, dude? You're going to kill him.
Yeah, it's not the best move.
Yeah.
And you would think he's actually probably smarter because he's got AI attached to him.
You would think so.
It's not thinking it through, man.
But those fucking claws are just like, yep, we're just throwing that through. We can't just get their attention by tapping on the window and being Doc Ock. We have to throw a car through the window to get their attention just for the scene, I guess.
Just like you tell any 13-year-old boy, you can't think with your dick all the time. You know, you can't think with your arms all the time, Doc. You gotta use that brain of yours.
I mean, if we're being real, at that point, those are pretty much his dick.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that is the implication.
Yeah.
You know, large phallic-like object.
Yeah. I don't think many of us would want 4, though. I think that's too much. A little too much.
Why stop
on
there? That's what I say.
Why stop there?
Yeah.
Not enough? All right.
Yeah, I'm more like the Nine Tails dick kind of guy.
You know,
No,
there's
just me? Okay.
You know, there's some Rule 34 drawing of the Pokemon Ninetales, but it's all dicks.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if it exists, that is Rule 34.
Well, that's Rule 34. That's the thing. Oh my god, I can't even believe I just thought that into existence.
I'm sure you're not the first.
I know.
Oh, and funny moment here with this. It's not related to the podcast, but since we just brought it up, I saw a TikTok video of someone telling people on the internet how Sonic used to have this really racist policy. They called it Rule 34. So if you want to hear more about it, just Google Sonic and Rule 34, and you'll learn all about their really racist policy.
I've heard of people doing that, not in that specific one with Sonic and racist policy, but yeah, the old Google Rule 34 with whatever character trick is just super fun. It's like telling somebody, like, back in the day, go to penisland.com.
Yeah.
Or good old meat
man,
spin.
that's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Quality memes.
Honestly.
Quality memes.
It's like the origin
Dank
of memes, fucking Penn Island. Anything else you guys want to talk about Spider-Man? I mean, I've hit everything I want to talk about.
This is the most I've ever talked about Spider-Man in my life, and I don't plan on continuing to talk about Spider-Man again for some time.
Well, I mean, just wait until we get to the MCU.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh, God.
Luckily, you don't have to watch the Andrew Garfield ones, though, because by our definition of franchise, it's 3 movies. Yeah. There's only 2 Amazing Spider-Man movies, so you lucked out there. But we'll have to get to those Tom Hollands.
We're not going to do all of Marvel, though, right? We're gonna have to break that up into
no. 24 movies, 1 month.
I mean,
all of 3 first phases. Go.
Yeah, and we can probably wait until more come out too.
Yeah, just wait till all Phase 4 finishes up, and then.
Yeah, and we'll throw WandaVision in there. We'll get all the other shows in there.
Oh yeah, how's that gonna work once like things start crossing boundaries in this new like world we're in? Where what's the difference between a TV show and a movie?
I mean,
the WandaVision stuff's pretty weird so far too.
Yeah,
I really wonder how that's gonna fit into the actual MCU.
Yeah, it is interesting. That's a play on the old House of M storyline in the comics, but it's a specifically X-Men storyline, and they're adapting it to fit the MCU, which is really interesting, at least from what I'm gathering about it. But yeah, it'll be interesting how they fit that in and how that. I think it's gonna. That might be the one that I confuse tying into Multiverse of Madness, because I think Elizabeth Olsen is playing Scarlet Witch in the new Doctor Strange. I think that's how it's supposed to go. I think WandaVision's the lead into that.
Okay, that would make sense then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe...
Yeah, I think I remember hearing about that too.
Yeah, maybe Doctor Strange then establishes the multiverse, and therefore we can get into that with Spider-Man. But no, Spider-Man's first, right?
Spider-Man first, then
yeah,
Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Well, either way, I don't know.
Well,
That's all
I do want we should do the MCU at some point, but let's break it up a little bit. That's a good one. We guys, why don't we start doing stuff that we like? Let's do some Star Wars. Let's do some Marvel.
Well, that's May the 4th, first of all. I think that makes sense, right? May the 4th.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do we want to break up
Star
Star Wars into the trilogies or no?
I just feel like if we don't, we're gonna have an 8-hour show.
Yeah, especially us.
What if we did some special event for the month of May, where starting on May the 4th, we do the original
we can go
trilogy,
rapid fire,
and then the next week we do the original trilogy, and then we do the sequel trilogy.
We could try.
Because I don't need to rewatch these movies to talk about them.
Yeah,
I mean, I will.
Not.
I will inevitably rewatch them, but I don't have to.
That's
we can
true.
go rapid fire Star Wars for sure.
We could do that, but what would we do on future May the 4th?
There's more Star Wars for the rest of our lives. We're gonna have Star Wars, and what if we did not the ancillary movies? So you don't do Rogue One, you don't do Solo, you don't do the Clone Wars movie.
They wouldn't really fit into a trilogy.
I wouldn't watch the Clone Wars movie again anyway. I have no desire to watch that movie ever again.
It's not good.
No. It's not even worth it. It doesn't add anything. I know that Stinky the Hut was a thing now. That's it.
What's worse, Attack of the Clones or the Clone Wars animated series? Or the animated
That's tough.
Movie?
That's tough. I gotta say the animated movie.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what you're judging it off of. Because really, if you think about the animated movie, it's just 3 episodes tied together. So I guess that makes it a bad movie. But if I had the choice of, hey, do you want to just watch these 3 episodes of the Clone Wars? Sure, I'll check out these 3 episodes. Do you want to watch Attack of the Clones again? No, I'm good.
That's sort of
rewatch
fair.
it sometimes.
I don't know. A lot of the Clone Wars is stuff that I wouldn't want to rewatch, because a lot of the Clone Wars is just repetitive, especially for the first couple of seasons.
I like Geonosis. That's cool. That's a cool
Geonosis is cool. That's about it.
It's fun. All right. That's fun.
Get little Boba Fett.
All right, so we'll reconsider what we're gonna do for Star Wars, but regardless, I think we're done talking about Spider-Man for a while.
Absolutely. And in case you missed it, we're doing the Shyamalaniverse Unbreakable series, so that includes Unbreakable, Split, and Glass for the next one. Like Zach said, maybe we should start doing stuff we like instead of forcing ourselves to do stuff that we're not super not interested in, but familiar with, I guess.
I am psyched to do this one though. I do wanna revisit these and finish out the trilogy. So that'd be fun.
Yeah, I don't mean to say it negatively, but we do this a lot where we just pick something that we're not super into or familiar with, and maybe we should just dive into something we really like for one of these times, other than just Star Wars too. But either way, thanks for joining us. I guess that's it.
That's how we do it.
This was the first after show, and I think it went off without a hitch. And look at that.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Pretty much an hour and 30 minutes, so we're looking good. Hit that goal.
Nice.
Nice job, guys. All right.
All right.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.